So that is when we have a slightly more serious growth of the code and the features of the website. But regular image uploading, peer review, publishing, that seriously happens every day by a bunch of people.
Is the image quality control automated, or somebody decides
All
this is
these
good
reviewers
enough?
decide whether this is good enough. So if people think that this is not a good image, you just write a note saying, nice spot record, but if you could upload a better image or try to get a better image next time, then we'll upload it. So we reject images if they're really poor quality. But you would be surprised the number of poor quality images, the proportion of images which are of poor quality is so small. Generally, people have fairly good cameras nowadays, and most people who contribute to serious websites like this are fairly serious. They may be beginners, but they're still pretty serious about contributing and about butterflies. So they try to take very good pictures. So most of the pictures you will see are decent qualities. Some are spectacular. Most are fairly decent, which is good enough for the website. And if it's really lower quality than that, these people say, this can't be accepted. We also reject images if they can't be identified. For example, people routinely upload images of darts, and you can't identify darts just based on images. You have to dissect them and confirm. So eventually, darts, what was the group that I was recently thinking of? Some of the Swifts. Eventually, we will be able to identify them just based on not all of the species, but perhaps many of the species. But for that, we'll initially have to collect a lot, dissect a lot, sequence a lot, so that we can correlate phenotype, genitalia, and then sequences, and then figure out a lot of things before we can do just image or otherwise morphology based identification. And the reason for this is that a lot of these species were described from 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 specimens, which is not good enough to come up with features which you can reliably identify a species with. So when we have collected fresh material, when we have done the dissections, then perhaps we'll be able to do that. But right now, when people upload images, we say we can't identify these, so we have to reject these. Not because the images are bad, but because we can't identify them. Or sometimes they might upload a picture from which you can't see the key characters, and without the key characters you can't identify certain species, in which case we again reject, but there will be specific reasons for rejection, otherwise most people don't reject. And somebody else had a question, I said hold on to it. Oh, how so I will talk about that.
But following up, do you have a cap for images per species?
No. A lot of people have asked, and what we are going to do now is, because sometimes a page gets really long and it takes slightly longer to load, we are going to restructure it in such a way that top 20 images get shown on the first page, and there will be a link to next 100 images and the next 100 images. So we do not want to restrict how many images we accept. If people contribute millions of images, we are ready to take millions of images. But on the website, for the sake of loading it quickly and showing it properly, we are going to move to this structure where we just show the first 20 images, and those 20 images will be carefully selected. These will be really nice pictures which show the variation really well, show male and female, seasonal variations, and so on. So we'll choose those 20 images based on what is going to be most useful for the users, what is going to be most useful in terms of variation and so on. And those will come on the first page. Everything else will follow in chronological order. The latest images get put at the end. So if you want to see what are the latest for that species, that's where you go. If you want to see absolutely latest, you can just click here and it will show you what are the latest images that have been uploaded. So on 17th of August, these images were loaded by that person, these images by this person, and so on and so forth. So if you visit the website regularly, if you want to see what is the latest, this is where you go. If you want species, you just go to species pages. So as you access this website more and more, you'll realize what an awesome resource this is. Truly, when I was starting watching butterflies 25 years ago, 27 years ago, if I had such a resource, I would have made progress so much faster. But we have struggled with so many things because in India there was just nothing available at that time, and there was no internet, so it was hard to communicate. It was hard to organize. But now we are making a lot more progress because of this. So it is a fairly impressive resource through all this citizen science that we've done.
Do we have any more last questions? Perhaps. Could I ask one more question?
Sure.
I know you're all getting late.
Yeah, but you're the boss who wins, so no rules.
A lot of citizen science projects I know are inspired by one or two key questions. Maybe it's finding out the distribution. Some RSPB, an example in the UK, they collect a lot of data in terms of specific half an hour count. People upload those, and I wonder, this is a solid resource. I wonder if there are any thoughts about developing those count type modules as part of this.
Count type models meaning?
Meaning, if people start doing half an hour counts and they want to upload those citing type
Sure.
of records.
So 30-minute counts is something that again my group has developed. Typically, historically, people have counted butterflies wherever such exercises have existed. For example, in the UK, or many PhD students in different parts of the world have gone to different habitat types and tried to count butterflies for whatever ecological evolutionary research that they're doing. The method that I've used is what is called transect method, where you walk in a straight line and count butterflies left and right of where you are walking up to a certain distance. So it gives you an area that you have looked at and the number of specimens that you have seen of all the species that you see, which doesn't work in tropical forests, which is where we work most of the time. So we said this method is good, has been used a lot. We can't do it in India, so what is the best method for our landscape? And we came up with the idea of 30-minute counts, and we have massive data set of that now from many parts of India, but especially Bangalore and the Western Ghats. So we have this method, and what Anuj is asking, is there a way to import that? Yes, that is what I described we are working on. So we'll be able to import Excel sheets, for example, from which we'll add data to. So those will be the records without images. So that was precisely the model that I was
And will those be
talking
part of
about.
this?
They will be part of all the records that are displayed. The maps won't be just the images, it will also be spot records contributed to a data set rather than images. It will become a data set, everything becomes a data set for the website ultimately, which is displayed there. But we will be able to import quantitative information. In fact, what we are planning is there will be a downloadable sheet in which people can include information and then upload it back to the website. So we are going to have a fairly streamlined process there. Unindo and I have been talking about it for some time, and it's a fairly straightforward thing to do. So like eBird, like iNaturalist, we will be able to import a lot of things through various means.
But doesn't peer review of data collected like that without photo documentation become a
That is
challenge?
a very interesting point. Yes, I'm glad you brought it up. And we, of course, have thought about it. Everybody worries about it. And a simple way to do this is you could have two-tier system where things verified with images get one kind of ranking and others get another kind of ranking. Second thing to do is when people upload records which look normal, you just trust people. And especially this, what I just described, uploading checklists on the website and contributing that. People don't do this unless they are pretty serious, right? And if they're so serious, they're probably going to be pretty serious about identifications, and they will have pretty good information on identifications. They'll be good at this. So you just trust people with that. But there is a step. When you have maps generated and those can be checked easily, when you add something substantial to the data set, You just quickly look at what species have been contributed, and you look at whether the maps look okay. If something is off, those can be caught much more easily. If they report, a species that you expect in an area where you expect it, it may or may not be an accurate record, but that doesn't contribute anything wrong to what this data set on the whole is illustrating. So even if some of those records may not be as verifiable and as reliable as you would like it, they are certainly not doing any damage. But when you have things like something that doesn't occur in India and it's right bang in the middle of India, surely there is a problem. And when you have, again, other kinds of things, you have a record of some high altitude butterfly in December. You're going to say, how does that butterfly fly in December in Himalayas at 15,000 meters? 15,000 feet. Everything is dormant at that time. So clearly there's a problem with that record. Sure, it's a species that you expect in that area and generally in those regions, not the right season. So that kind of vetting can be easily done. So for all the high altitude species, for example, that matrix I showed you, January to December, and states, there are easy ways to spot these records, and these can be automated too. If you find a Himalayan species in Kerala in a state where it's not supposed to be, that the program can automatically tell you that it's a wrong record that needs to be verified. And if something occurs in a season where it's not supposed to be, that can be flagged too. So there are easy ways of dealing with that. And as I said, you have to trust people a little bit more, especially when they're not telling you something new. Like you have 100 records and there's one more record which you can't verify, but it falls in line with what you expect and know. All right. Again,
then.
thanks for
Thank you, everyone.
gathering up here. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I do hope that you will start doing some citizen science, not just natural history and your weekend or other observations. But I think there's a lot that we can all do if we come together, and I hope to see that for Singapore as well.
Okay.
Thank you for spending a Thursday evening with us.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
A small token of appreciation from us.
No.
Can I invite Amy and Casey
What?
to give this as either of you?